Chapter 15 of Sketches. I looked out the front window of Sketches. The rain had slowed down but hadn't stopped. The rain was the only reason I wasn't out with Brent and Ashley creating another sidewalk chalk masterpiece. A day of rain, and we weren't raising money towards the apartment. But I was happy just the same. There was something about being at Sketches. I felt almost like I was me, the old me, when I was painting. Most of the time, my old life seemed more like a dream than anything real. I stepped back to look at my painting, to admire my painting. I didn't think I'd ever done anything this good in my entire life. It looked like my sister and me, especially my sister. Those were her eyes, and that was how her lips curved into a smile. She was always smiling. At least, that's the way I remembered her. It was amazing how after just a few weeks my memories had started to fade. I decided I'd better clean my brushes and go to find Brent and Ashley. We couldn't chalk today, but we still had to earn money, and it wasn't fair I wasn't doing my part. On my way to the sink, I walked past Becca, who was working on a painting of her own. We talked earlier, but not about what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to know what she thought of my painting. Then again, I wondered if I could handle if she didn't like it. I cleaned the brushes and went back to my easel. Carefully, I picked up my canvas and made my way over to where she was working. I stood behind her, silently, looking at her work. Her painting was a street scene, an alley actually. I thought I even recognized the place. The painting was filled with angry streaks of red and black, and there were two small figures huddled by a wall in the corner. It was disturbing to look at. I knew people paid a lot of money for some of her paintings, but I wouldn't have put this in my home if she'd paid me. It would have bothered me every time I passed by. "What do you think?" she asked as she turned around. I was taken aback for a split second. I hadn't even been sure she'd realized I was there, and I was even more surprised that she wanted my opinion. "It's nice." "Nice?" she groaned. "That isn't exactly what I was aiming for. Well, not nice. It's what?" she asked. I took a big breath. "It's disturbing," I said. "I don't even like to look at it," I blurted out. "Not that it isn't good, but—" "Hey, you don't have to apologize," she said. "That's the reaction I'm looking for. Do you recognize the scene?" "It looks familiar, really familiar, but I don't know exactly where it is." "That's good, too. It's an alley. Any alley, anywhere in the downtown of a big city. I want it to look familiar, but not be any particular place. What about it do you find disturbing?" "The way you use the colors, mainly. It looks so what?" I was going to say angry, but that's wrong. It's not angry. It's sad. There's a sadness, and that's why I want to look away. Becca smiled. "That's how most people feel, you know. People who have jobs and houses and cars and wear nice clothes. They all just want to look away. Ignore us. You ever feel like you're almost invisible out there?" she asked. I nodded. "All the time." "I guess it doesn't apply to me the same way anymore," Becca said. "I live in an apartment, and I get to eat." She paused. "Sometimes I even feel a little guilty for not being on the streets." "You shouldn't feel guilty. You should be grateful," I exclaimed. "Don't get me wrong. I am grateful. It's just hard to go home to my nice little warm apartment, knowing that a whole lot of other kids are out on the streets." "But you're trying to help," I said. "You're here." "I'm here, but I'm not sure how good that does anybody. How much good that does anybody." "It does help," I argued. "It gives us hope, because if you can get off the street, maybe we can too," I said. "In fact, we're working on a plan. Maybe by the time the weather changes, we can get a place. I mean, my friends Brent and Ashley and me. We're working together." "That's great, because you want to get off the streets as soon as you can. You know, that's one of the things that bothers me the most. People think that kids live on the streets because they want to be on the streets, but they're out there because it's just so much fun." I snorted. "Yeah. Or because we think our parents are too strict, or we don't want to be nagged about doing our homework." "You and I know better though, right? Kids only go out on the streets because of all those terrible things they'd face if they didn't run away," she said. I suddenly felt a catch in my breath. My heart was pounding so hard that I imagined if I looked down, I could see it throbbing in my chest. I had an awful fear that she was going to ask me what I was running away from, why I'd left home. But she seemed to be done with that subject. "Let me see your painting," she said. Nervously, I turned my canvas around and held it up so she could see it. She looked intently at it, like she was studying it, memorizing it. "Nikki is right," she said at last. "Right about what?" "You are very talented." I felt a rush of relief. "The detail on those faces is exquisite. Most people avoid portraits, especially self-portraits. This really does look like you." She looked at the painting again. "And who's this?" "My sister. My little sister, Candace." "Does she still live at home?" I nodded. "With my mother." "How old is she?" 10, almost 11. She turns 11 in 2 weeks. "Do you think you'll go and see her?" Becca asked. "I can't go home." "Sometimes you can't. But you do know that it would be the perfect birthday present for her?" Becca asked. But do you know what would be the perfect birthday present for her? Becca asked. "For me to see her?" I asked. She laughed. "You're right. That probably would be the perfect thing. Second best would be if you sent her a present." I thought about that. What could I send her, and how? I decided second best wasn't good enough for my sister. I just had to hope I would see her again, and soon. "So when do you think you're going to finish your painting?" "You don't think it's finished?" I asked. "I'm sorry," Becca said. "Do you think it's finished?" "Well, I don't know what more I could add." "I don't think there's anything more you should add to the foreground, but what about the background?" "What about the background?" "For starters, it needs one." "There's a background," I argued. It was really just a background color, a mood, but I thought it was right for the painting. "You're right, there is a background, sort of, but..." Becca stopped herself mid-sentence. "You ever heard the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words?" "Of course." "That's a lie. A picture can be worth 10,000 words, 100,000 words. It can tell a whole story, and your painting just tells part of the story." "It does?" "I can see part of the story on the faces of the two sisters." I knew without looking what she meant. "I need to know more about what's happening to the girls, the story behind them, the background of the painting. That's what will make this more than good. It'll make it great. I think you're capable of making this great." "Now you sound like Nikki. She thinks everything is wonderful." "You're right, she does," Becca agreed. "Me? I try to never hurt anybody's feelings, but I also never lie. If I think something's good, I say so. If I think it's crap, I just try not to say anything." "So," I asked nervously, "you think this is a great painting?" "No, I said it could be a great painting. You need to add something to make this painting more than just good. Do you think you can do that?" "I need to think about it some more. I also needed to meet Brent and Ashley. I'll show you later, after it's finished." "I'm looking forward to it," she said.